Welcome to the bold analysis. I want to start by asking this question. What is this backroom method that Raila Odinga is allegedly using to remove William Ruto from power? This is a narrative that has been floated by, and it is what is behind the talk of arresting Raila Odinga.
Hizi zingine Raila Odinga anafanya na Azimio ni ukora na utapeli na anarchy. Anajaribu kuchukua power kwa njia ya backdoor, which we will not accept, and even know it is a work in futility. It cannot work, it has never worked, and it will never work. Sababu ukianza kuongea mambo ya sabasaba ya 1990, mimi mbele ya Mungu niko mbele ya kanisa, 1990 sikuwa nimesaliwa.
That is a member of parliament from Baringo, if I'm not wrong. And you will realize that what many people are talking about is that Raila Odinga should be arrested because what he's doing is amounting to anarchy, and he's using unconstitutional means of removing William Ruto from the power. But what is exactly happening? And that's what I'm going to explain in this podcast. It is part of a strategy, a plan that is laid to counter the protests that are going on, arresting other leaders, and also to avoid a situation of these protests gaining momentum. Now let me start by saying this. What Raila did on Sabasaba was, one, a political gathering. And that political gathering then culminated in a program of signature collection. I'm not a lawyer, but I've seen lawyers in this social media, in corridors, and even in the daily saying that there is no, in the process of constitutional laid process of removing the president, there is nowhere those signatures are needed. And so, to speak the truth, if the fellows saying they want to arrest Raila Odinga because Raila is bringing anarchy are attributing to the fact that Raila is collecting signatures, then they're simply lying. My good friends and fellow Kenyans, the process of removing president is parliamentary. It is actually domiciled in the parliament. So, if these signatures are something to go by, then they will only give that parliamentary process a momentum. They'll just give it some validation. So whoever is going to move that motion in the National Assembly shall use the fact that what is being collected, that the process has the backing of the Kenyan people. However, UDA are threatened with the signature process, and they're simply hiding behind the whole thing, about the whole discussion about arresting Raila Odinga. They know that when Raila is collecting data, that data is going to be used to understand the citizenry, to understand the population. They're taking phone numbers, where they're coming, and some data about those people, and they might use it for planning. Number two, the data that is being collected, the database that is being collected, or rather in that signature signing process, even UDA members are getting into it and signing, even those who are UDA members. And so government are a bit uncomfortable with it. But the two reasons why the chorus of arrest Raila is going on. Before I explain that, and let me say the first one, I think, I don't want to lose it. The first reason why you are being told about we want to arrest Raila narrative is because they want to divert the objective, rather the attention of the country from the reason behind the protests and to narrow it down to a Raila project challenging William Ruto's legitimacy. Yes, the reason why Raila is leading Azimio troops to discredit William Ruto's reign is anchored on the cost of living, and especially after passing of the finance bill against the protest in the population. But that is what they don't want to face, and they want to turn the whole thing to be about Raila Odinga. So the cost of living question is we want to arrest Raila is to remove it, not to be people owned, not to be population owned, but to be a Raila affair. Before I look at the second one, let me remind you about Sarah. We are finishing the last mile of the support towards the family. We lost that lady after a long fight with, long battle with acute leukemia, and we supported her in this channel last year. So unfortunately, she passed on 26th June, pending on burial costs and the welfare of the child. And that is why we are running 100 Children's Challenge. For those of us that can turn up, I think the deadline we're finishing on Wednesday night, midnight. So we just have, I think, yes, just like 2 days to finish this. And I want to say thank you for those who are responding. The second reason why the chorus of we are going to arrest Raila is here is because they want to draw the political lines. If you look at those who are singing arrest Raila are the UDA wing, especially from the Rift Valley. I've seen 2 MPs. I've seen Cherargei, Senator Cherargei, and I think I think that MP I've shared. And I want to share with you this soundbite. Cherargei was interviewed, I think, by KBC Digital Team, and he mentioned that the protests only happened in Raila Odinga strongholds.
Can say is that although demonstrations are happening in only 3 places, it has happened in Nairobi, Kisumu, Migori only, and we know the reasons as to why. Those are Raila strongholds. The rest of the country has been very peaceful. But what we are saddened, and I think we have failed to note, and us who believe in rule of law, is that Raila Odinga and other organizers must be arrested immediately. Now,
he is lying about it. And he knows very well he's lying. There was a protest in Kisii. There's a protest in Lodwar. There's some protest in Nyahururu. It was led by Ndiritu Muridhi. Jeremiah Kioni. There was Kakamega by Oparanya. There was Machakos by Kalonzo Musyoka, and someone was also sharing it. There was also another protest in Embu and Meru, and also Kilifi. So it's not true. But what they're intending to do is to show the country, and rather to discourage those who support William Ruto from being part of it, simply because it is a Raila thing. So it's a plot to reduce it to an Azimio thing, to zone out the UDA. But this is what I see. What Raila did over the weekend really sent Ruto into panic. When he brought in, said he went and picked a license. Okay, police, what we do? Give me the go-ahead to hold a rally. And after holding the rally with the crowd, he said, let's go. So that is what happened. And you know, he found them off guard. They realized, okay, maybe Raila is just going to have that rally, then it ends there. But at the rally, they said, we are meeting in the rally, and after the rally, we are going to town. And you know, he had numbers. He had numbers. That one, of course, his move was predictable. It was different from what he did initially, where he would just say, he will not say where people are converging, and will come from somewhere without maybe just getting the police by surprise. The plan with arrest Raila is very clear. And what I'm seeing some three strategies in that plan. Number one, last protest on Friday, Raila Odinga's car was also hit by a bullet. I don't know, I think what bullet, the Arabica, if you look at that car. That has been a trend even last time. So they want to sustain a narrative that we want to arrest Raila, so that what you would expect probably on Wednesday is Raila's car being hit with the bullet, you know. And when they sustain, the whole thing will turn into, we are targeting him. And what I see they want is to instill fear. I don't think, you know, I know one guy who had worked at Raila Odinga's secretariat as a photographer, and was telling me, he was actually telling me that, Kevin, the mzee I'm seeing now is the Agwambo. That man doesn't fear. And those who think that when you tell him I'll arrest him, you will instill fear in him, hapo ni kama kupeleka bia katika birthday party ya bishop. You know, it's very useless statement. That's what that photographer was telling me, that Kevin, that man is different. He's not, he has nothing to lose. You know, he's even willing to go down and walk. So that fear, and you know, Raila thrives in that confrontation. When you try, you want to, the moment you want to hit him and you know, suppress him, that's the moment he will actually come out and show. And you know, with that following, the moment is around. I was talking to someone who participated in the thread and was telling me, Raila akitoka, and the reason why you see the protesters are normally, the water councils are sent, you know, where protesters are normally dispersed, not to be around Raila's car is, the moment ametoka akiwa juu, no one will always leave that car. I know, I interviewed this, ananiambia, mzee akiwa juu ya gari, everyone around that convoy, ata akiwa, no one will leave. No one will leave. And that is why they normally ensure Raila's life is at risk. When you put Raila's life at risk, then akosa kutoka juu, you can deal with the protesters. So that would be one the plan, to instill fear. Number two, this may not be about Raila Odinga, but there could be plan to arrest other leaders. Yes, we've seen it in the past. When you're saying you can arrest Raila, it just ends at saying. I don't think it's implementable. It's not. It ends at saying, because even the intelligence will tell president that, you know, that one, forget about it. Okay, who is that police officer who's going to arrest him anyway? Let's start there. Where are you going to put him? Fine, you can arrest him. So where are you going to take him? Which police station? You know, are you going to take him to a police station? Or are you going to take him? Where are you going to take him? Are you going to take him to a military base? You know, are you going to present him in court? Where? Which court? You know, if you arresting him is not a problem, you can arrest. But where do you take him? Which police station? You know, Kenya is going to go there and go look for him. If you're taking him to court, where? How? How are you going to move him? You know, and what are the repercussions of that police officer? If that you'll bribe one police officer to go and arrest him, you know, yourself, you're like, oh, this one. It's not a very easy thing, so it ends as staying. The other thing is, I see a probability government is branding Raila Odinga's activities as those of creating anarchy. It's simply because they've been caught off guard by Raila Odinga's new strategy of calling a political rally, consolidating the team, then moving on with a protest. And what is in the offing, and I can say before Wednesday you'll see, there is a clear plan to ban Azimio rallies. That's what has started. It is being created as number one, anarchy, you know, havoc, using very big jargons. But it's just creating a ground that the UD administration could be planning to ban the rallies. Those who complain that you cannot do the same thing many times and get results, I'll still tell them that it will be the same thing. Because if you ban it, then what happens? He says let's go to town, let's go to protest. Then what will happen? People won't go to work. And at the end of the day, if it is sabotage, it shall still be there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, tell me whether about there is a plan to restore. But for me, it's not about him, but it's a better strategy. It's a strategy one to turn the whole thing political. Narrow it down on Raila Odinga. Because, as you can see, there were others. There was Kisii, where there was no one. There was Kakamega. There was Embu. There was Meru, Mombasa. But they're just looking for this one on Raila. Because the intention is about narrowing it down and probably even to arrest other leaders so that people can shy away. But if it is about instilling fear, I think forget about it. If you can't get it, forget about it. Thank you. Let's meet in the next.